So what do you do if you have a staff person at the church who wants to work a side hustle? Should you allow them to do it? Are they not allowed to do it? They need to make a little extra money. The church can't afford to give them the resources they need. So should they do this side hustle? That's a question some churches are facing. And in today's episode, we're going to debate the pros and cons of this situation and help you determine the best decision moving forward. Here we go.
You know, my wife and I have been blessed to be part of a great ministry journey. We've worked for a couple of great churches and parachurch ministries, and we really enjoyed the journey. We had these two kids, this being the oldest one here, and we were privileged to raise them. Yep. But along the way, we reached points like probably almost every family reaches where money got tight. It got so tight that on two occasions I got paper routes. So here I am, I'm working for the church and I'm getting up early, like at 2:30 in the morning to get all bundled up. And we lived in Iowa at the time. So in the winter, you're fighting the snow and the cold and you're out there, you're grabbing these papers. This is old school. I know, folks, when,
you're actually
delivering a newspaper.
Yeah, exactly.
But we did that for one reason, not because I love to get up at 2:30 in the morning, but because we needed money. We started a couple little in-home businesses: Silk and Straw, PJ Productions, Midwest Billing. This is when the internet was really starting to come out in the old school 90s. But the point being, we were on staff at a church, and yet we were doing things to earn extra money. The question we're going to talk about today is that right for a church to encourage or allow staff members to have side hustles?
So my question is, was I that expensive to raise?
Right.
Just kidding. It was actually my sister.
Actually, it was your sister. She was the expensive one. That's right.
Yeah. So, anyway, this is going to be a fun one today because we are going to go do something a little bit different than normal, and we're going to actually share both sides of the coin on this issue. Because
I've got the right side. I'm the correct side.
And I have the wrong side?
That's
what
right.
You're saying? So we still love each other, but we view things a little bit differently. And so we're going to be sharing these thoughts today. And so why don't we just kick it off?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to...
So let's the question is, should churches allow staff members...
allow or even encourage staff members to have side hustles?
Okay, just to caveat here, obviously we're talking about paid staff in this particular case.
Paid staff.
Yeah, so obviously if they're volunteer, then they have another job. So
that's right. Okay, so I'm going to take the position that what I did while I was raising him and his expensive sister was not right to do. That I shouldn't have done that, or the church should not have allowed me to do that. And let me tell you why. For the church, it distorts or has the potential to distort the budget. You could, as the church, you could begin to think, because we're paying Dick this amount of money, this is okay, and we could keep doing this. Mm-hmm. Never mind, Dick and Pat were facing some tough times. There should have been communication going back and forth. Way more than there was, but you got to. When you're in the mindset of the employee doesn't want to come groveling, saying, "Well, I'm not spending my money. I need more money." Blah blah blah. Pastors typically don't want to do that, which I didn't want to do. But the church should have been attuned to say, "No, we're not going to have that happen," and it just potentially distorts the budget, and it creates dependency on outside sources, and you don't want to get in that boat. Because that means the employee, the pastor, can begin to depend on the ability to earn more money outside versus doing what they're doing at the church. Mm-hmm. And that takes their eye off the ball. Mm-hmm. Things can really get out of control that way. And then, frankly, the staff can abuse the privilege. Here's the deal. I make X number of dollars as a staff employee. Very few staff employees or pastors are paid on a commission. So they're paid X number of dollars in a year. I can earn a little bit over here, or a little bit more, or a little bit more, a little bit more. And as my needs would get bigger and bigger, I could say, I'm not going to keep doing more of this because I can make more money over here. Mm-hmm. I get it. I'm talking about the human part of people. But that's what your staff members are. They are human. Yes, they're committed, godly pastors, but they have this human piece, and I say, no way, Jose, should you be allowing or encouraging that. So just try to undo that, buddy.
Beat that. Well, I think they should, and the reason I think they should, well, there's several reasons, is because the church landscape is changing, and and there's probably a little bit of a difference between the generation here. Although you definitely did, you did what I think the churches should allow, because and let me kind of qualify with this. If the churches could afford to pay people what they deserve to be paid, this wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't even be having this discussion. Yeah. But at least in the United States church context, which is what I'm most familiar with, I'm assuming the Western church context is the same as a whole. People, pastors, staff people of churches are not paid what they should be paid.
Correct.
So is that fair for us to say, well, then you're just going to have to live a life of poverty and poor the whole life, and you're raising 2 kids or you're raising 3, 4, 5 kids? To me, that just doesn't seem right. And so I feel like we need to be able to do things that will allow a family to be able to maybe not even necessarily get ahead, but just be able to live like a basic life without the stress of that. When you have the stress of finances, it affects your marriage, it affects your parenting, it affects your overall way of life. And if you bring that into your ministry, you can't be as effective. And so you need to be able to have a little bit of that breathing room financially. And so if that means the church can't pay you what you need to be paid, then I feel like the church needs to say, okay, well, then we're going to have to allow the side hustle. Now, I also want to qualify and say, if it's your main job as an employee, you can't put in 75% effort. I mean, you still need to give the 100% effort. So then that's where the side hustle comes in, which means you're hustling it at night, you're doing something on the weekend, you're taking a couple days off, you're using vacation time to work on something else that's going to allow you to do that. Because otherwise, you can't get ahead. In the 21st century church, at least in the United States, most churches do not pay people enough to where they're going to be able to retire someday. They're just not. And you know what it's like. You've got pastors that are older than you. They're still out there trying to do it because they can't.
For one reason, they need money.
They can't retire. So if we keep on the same trajectory right now of not paying pastors what they should be paid, staff people what they should be paid, then we're not setting them up for the future success. I understand where you're coming from, and you're saying, well, then it's going to distract them. What if they see they can start making more money and they want to start putting more time for that? Well, that's on them. I feel like that's on them in their relationship with God to decide should, maybe God's steering them in another direction.
Well, I think it's a relationship with the pastor as well. I mean, they've got to talk.
Sure.
In most of my cases, I was not talking about the extent of the need in my family.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean...
And in part because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
For goodness sakes, I was the administrator of the church. So I'm supposed to be able to... And yet, we were facing what we were facing in our home.
Right.
But wait a minute, I don't want to be arguing your point for you.
Well, I think you're helping. Am I winning so far? So anyway, that's just where I'm at. I think the church landscape's changing, and I think that people have to. I mean, their number one priority is take care of their family, and if you can't put food on the table, and now I'm not saying you should be doing that to go live a luxurious life. Right. So you get your Range Rover and your Lexus and your bells and whistles and your huge house and all that. I'm not advocating that you go do a side hustle to do that. But if you are making what you were making in your case, and you just need a little bit of breathing room, you don't need the stress of the finances. Yeah. Yeah. And in today's age, we have the ability to create online resources like never before, courses and things. And so that's where I just think, man.
I'll give it to you. It is a different world today than it was in the 90s.
Yes. Yeah, it's different. Yeah. It's different. So that's why I'm thinking if a church can't pay people, then they need to allow people to go make some additional money. That's where I'm at.
There you go. Well,
okay. All right.
We're going to give you our snapshot argument. The reason you really should not allow or encourage side hustles is it takes the eye off the ball, to me, of the pastor, the employee, and it creates a distortion of what it really takes to have that person there. So I would say, Pastor, you need to be talking to your staff members all on the way, forcing them to communicate to you where they're really at with their personal family budget. Anyway, just don't do it.
And then allow them to do side hustles so that they can have the resources they need to be able to have their focus on the ministry and not be distracted by the finances and the pressures and the stress that it's going to bring on their family and their parenting and all those things.
Good argument. Good argument.
All right. Well, we'll let you be the decision maker of who wins, and maybe it's a combination of both.
Yeah, maybe it is. We talk. We've got a number of episodes where we talk about budget issues relative to the church. We're talking about how the church actually pays, and if there's distortion. Episode 7, we talk about how to balance the church budget, and there's a big piece in there about compensation for those who do have staff members, whether it's one or two pastors or whatever. That's important to take a look at. Or we think you'd find that valuable. I would encourage you too, as a pastor, to take a look at the 5-day leadership challenge that we have created here at Leaders.Church for you. You just go to Leaders.Church/challenge, because here's the drill. As the leader, whether you're in the position where you need a side hustle, or you have an employee, a pastor on your team that wants to do a side hustle, a big piece of this is how you lead through it. And the 5-day leadership challenge is going to help you be better, be a better leader for your church. We really encourage you. Go to Leaders.Church/challenge, and you'll just be able to jump in. You do it today. Today's day one. And you just start through the 5-day challenge. It's about 15 minutes a day that you invest in you. When you invest in you, growing churches are led by growing pastors.
That's right.
And if you'll invest in you, you'll get better. And in turn, the church will get better. And your ability to lead your team in the areas we're talking about today will accelerate.
That's right.
We want to encourage you to jump on social media and follow us there. And also to subscribe to the podcast platform that is of your choice, and rate and review us. We've got T. Matrone. I think I know T. Matrone. And he said, practical insight, great content for these challenging times. Thanks to Jonathan and Dick for sharing. Well, thank you, T. Matrone, for that review. And if you write a review for us, who knows? We may read your review in one of the upcoming episodes of Church Tips Podcast. Yeah. Anything else, Jonathan?
Well, I thought of some more arguments, but we'll have to save those for debate part 2.
Yeah, great. Here we go.
No, I was just sitting here like, I didn't even mention this.
Didn't mention that one. Yeah, well, it's a good thing we shut this off when we did.
That's right.
Thanks for listening today or watching. Make it a great one, and be blessed.
Hey, Jonathan here. Real quick before you go. Everything in your ministry rises and falls on your leadership. So investing in your leadership is essential to staying healthy and growing the ministry. And that's why I want to invite you to join us inside the Leaders.Church membership. This online streaming service for pastors gives you access to more than 300 videos plus training material to level up your leadership and improve your ministry skills. If you'd like to do that, I want to invite you to go to Leaders.Church/boost. Again, that's Leaders.Church/boost. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Church Tips Podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.